Africa channel. This is Chris live at Loftus Versfeld in Pretoria, home of the Blue Bulls, the Blauw Bull. Welcome back to the program, folks, and it's good to have you back once again this evening. We're going to talk about the South African elections again, as we have been doing for the past week or so, and also talk about the United States and just how the death of a republic is occurring right in front of our eyes, the end of liberty and freedom across the free world, led by the demonic leftists in the United States. So welcome back to the program. Let me go and get started with my evening monologue for today, June 7th, 2024, the day after D-Day. And hopefully you had a lekker Freitag. Well, folks, here's my monologue for today. The world is at a turning point, an inflection point. The United States, the beacon of democracy, the land of the free, is under assault from within, as our systems of justice are perverted against citizens, as lies are perpetrated against citizens who committed no crimes to imprison them. We have entered a Soviet-esque era. The United States is in free fall. The beacon of democracy, the beacon of liberty, is at risk of being extinguished by demonic leftist crap weasels who are undermining the rule of law with their selective enforcement. The concept of the Equal Protection Clause under the 14th Amendment of the United States has gone completely out the window. Completely out the window. The 14th Amendment was supposed to ensure that former slaves were treated as citizens. Therefore, something known as Equal Protection Clause is placed in there, saying that all citizens are guaranteed equal protection under the law. Well, in fact, we know that's not the case. Eric Holder, scumbag, reprobate, sold weapons to criminal gangs and facilitated arms transfers illegally in Mexico to narco traffickers. This resulted in the death of U.S. Customs or Immigration Drug Enforcement Agency agents, and they got away with it. He was found in contempt of Congress, and he suffered no penalty, no imprisonment for it. By contrast, Peter Navarro, a septuagenarian economist who committed no crime, but simply exerted or put out executive privilege, what's his responsibility. He had privileged information from the chief executive, and he insisted on exercising that executive privilege, and he was found in contempt of a Congress that is nothing but contemptuous. It is a disgusting embarrassment for the United States. It is a cabal of greedy, arrogant, self-opinionated, craven political actors who are there for self-aggrandizement, craven political power, and self-enrichment, by and large. Finding yourself in contempt of Congress is a joke. Congress itself is contemptuous in its conduct of our governance, burying Americans in a debt burden that can never be relieved, destroying our foreign policy, sending money to fuel Joe Biden's hidden proxy war in Ukraine, launching our country into conflict after conflict. This is a corrupt, bought Congress by special interests and by demonic crap weasels. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, at this hour, the beacon of liberty is being dampened by heavy rainfall. Peter Navarro committed no crime, serving a federal prison sentence for contempt of a contemptuous body, while Eric Holder suffered no such fate. Alejandro Mayorkas has failed to turn over documents, failed to answer the basic questions of the congressman, and is yet to be found in contempt and convicted and sent to prison. But Peter Navarro, who simply exerted executive privilege, which was his responsibility to do, sent to prison for 4 months. And now, Steve Bannon, sent to federal prison on July 1st, coming up for contempt of Congress. Once again, a contemptuous body, which alienates itself from the American people each and every single day. This is a disgrace to liberty. This is a disgrace to the founders. This is a disgrace to the Constitution. This is a disgrace to the concept of fairness and justice. Lady Justice wears a blindfold because justice is blind. But under the corrupt Biden regime and their toadies in state governments around the United States, the Alvin Braggs, the Fani Willis, who gives money to her lover so he can knock boots and bang her on vacation with state money that she gave him illicitly, and under the actions of so many other corrupt prosecutors and idiots like Letitia James in New York, the concept of equality before the law, equal protection under the law, and fairness is gone. If you're not a demonic crap weasel leftist, you are at risk in America. And this is a frightening prospect for someone who spent their entire life defending the Constitution, which is being shat upon by members of Congress and by prosecutors in states around the country like Georgia and New York. an absolute disgrace to liberty. These people should be removed forthwith in a legal fashion, and they should be charged for their conduct. Because in the court of public opinion, they are disgraceful, and they've shamed themselves. And there's my opening monologue, folks. We're talking about South Africa's elections, but tonight I want to start with that because, quite frankly, I'm angry. I'm angry, and I think I have a right to be angry, as you may be angry, especially if you're an American, about what is happening. This is disgraceful. It is beyond the pale. It is unacceptable. This is not what we fought for. This is not what the founding fathers fought for. This is not why we ended fascism and the Soviet Union. We did so to protect our liberties and our freedoms, which are being shat upon each and every day by corrupt government officials, many of whom aren't even legitimately in office. All right, so there you go. I had to get that off my chest. That was my opening monologue. I hope that for those of you tuning in from South Africa to hear this, hear a discussion of elections, don't mind me talking about America because, of course, I am an American and an American officer who defended the Constitution. So let's go ahead and get to what we got to talk about tonight. All right. So the economic freedom fighters under Julius Malema are playing hardball, folks. They're playing hardball. They say they do not want to be part of the government of national unity unless land theft is included. They want land theft. They want black emancipation. Apparently, they missed 1994. They missed the dismantlement of apartheid-era laws from the 1980s until 1992 when they were all gone. Apparently, they missed history. What they mean, of course, by black emancipation is they want to rob and steal from productive members of society, black and white and brown, and give to the masses who earn nothing, using the excuse of poverty. Well, poverty exists in South Africa overwhelmingly because of the conduct of the policies of the corrupt African National Congress. The ANC's macroeconomic policies are wrong-headed, they're foolish, they're stupid, they're racist, they're bigoted, and they're counterproductive. They harm all South Africans. And the EFF wants to make things worse. Otherwise, they do not agree to a government of national unity. Well, quite frankly, I don't agree to a government of national unity either. So no threat there from the EFF. If they don't want to be part of it, that's fine. We won't lose any sleep over the EFF. However, these are the opening demands from the economic freedom fighters. Again, they want black emancipation. They want also the free education, I should mention. Here's a news flash for Julius Malema. Education is free already. Education is free. You send kids to public school in South Africa and you don't have to pay school fees. So it's free. But what he means is you want free tertiary education, postgraduate education for anyone who has the right skin pigmentation. When the only people that should be going to university are people who are qualified to go, whether they're black, white, or brown, not simply because of skin color. It leads to a cabal of illiterate, dysfunctional members of society who believe they're educated because someone gave them a piece of paper saying they were qualified when they had abysmal scores. Now, free education, no, it's not. No one deserves free education at the university level anywhere on the planet, and that's quite simply the truth. Now, if you live in poverty, you should be able to get from taxpayers grants to level the playing field for children raised in poverty. Children should be punished for the actions or failures of their parents to succeed in life. And if you grow up in poverty, you should have the ability to reach out, and taxpayers should be willing to fund grants, or as they say in South Africa, bursaries, for those based on financial need who qualify academically to go to university. And that's how you solve these problems. The other problem you have to solve is you need to stop the Bantu education system of the ANC, which steals money intended for textbooks, which steals money intended for abolition units so children die in pit latrines. That's a hole dug in the ground, and they fall and die in feces. And that's a true story for my international audience. It just happened again to a 3-year-old at the kindergarten just a few weeks back. The ANC has stolen all the money. They've given it to corrupt contracts with corrupt tenders led by corrupt majority, black, BEE companies. And this is a disgrace to South Africa, and the ANC's actions have undermined education. Earlier today, I met with Ernst van Zyl, the Director of Public Relations for AfriForum, civil rights group here in South Africa, and he talked about BELA, the Basic Education Law Amendment Act, and that abomination which will give the national government total control over all education, the entire system, and they will use it to exterminate non-African origin languages. That's what they're going to do. That's their plan. Let me look at the chat here and see what people are saying, what you guys are up to before we get any more news. Right, James Booey's here, Hester Kotza, Fansel Kugenberg, good evening to you. Garrett Gillich, Dave Mulcahy, the old Boypo filtrationist. What is happening with Steve Bannon? It seems like they're trying to take down all Demon Rat opposition. Yes, Steve Bannon was found guilty in 2022 contempt of Congress for not turning over documents which Congress has no business having. Just because you're Congress doesn't mean you have a right to demand any document, and they have no legal authority. We've never seen people go to jail for contempt of Congress. I'm not even sure where that sits in the statute. Maybe it's in the statute. It must be, or they wouldn't be able to pull it off. But the bottom line is that when Democrats are in contempt of Congress, they don't even pay fines. Nothing happens. Bannon goes to prison. Navarro goes to prison. But Eric Holder walks free. Alejandro Mayorkas walks free. Nothing happening to them. Just like Nicaragua, Marxist mega control. Yep, terror state laws. Radine says the United States has been starting pointless wars since the Cold War ended. Name one. Name one war the United States started. Please, Radine. Thank you. Coming in from Italy. Tell me one war the United States started. I'm listening. I'm listening. What war did we start? We didn't start any war. We joined wars that were underway. We didn't start any wars. That's nonsense. That's simply not true. There's news doing the rounds of Joe Biden pooped. I don't know if that's true. Hey, Kenar, welcome to you. Clive State, good evening to you. And what else you got here? Met with a professor from Wits who says, yes, the student bursary may pay university fees, but there are students living in libraries be fed by engines because there's no money to live. Yeah, exactly. They stole the money. Giuseppe Garibaldi, it's been a while. Congrats on getting your views up. Checked in last night and you were milking it on your live stream. Munster versus Osprey. I won't be calling it. Pray for Osprey to win, but I know better. That's not going to happen. So, awkward Leon. I honestly think 99% of the EFF voters don't know how to understand communism is. Yeah, no, they don't. It's a cult of personality. The economic freedom fighters and MK parties are simply cults of personality. That's what they are. That's the bottom line. So, yeah, let's keep that in mind. All right, so let's get over here. Hendo's here. Welcome. There's my moderator extraordinaire and one of my moderators extraordinaire, Erica, right behind him there. Radine says Iraq, Afghanistan, arguably Ukraine. Nope. We didn't start the conflict in Iraq. Nope. Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait and threatened Saudi Arabia. We defended Saudi Arabia and we evicted him from Iraq. The other conflict, that conflict never ended. Never ended. There was never a treaty. Peace never achieved. And the Iraqis violated the terms of 17 United Nations referendums on Iraq's conduct. 17 times. The United Nations authorized force multiple times. The Iraqis committed acts of war daily against American aircraft flying in the UN-authorized no-fly zone by illuminating target acquisition radars and getting tone lock on our aircraft, threatening the lives of our airmen. That's an act of war. Look it up. It's an act of war. The war never ended. We didn't invade Iraq. That was a response to Iraq's actions in 1990 and carried over to 2003. Afghanistan, we didn't start that war. We didn't start that war. The Taliban started that war. We just joined it much later. And Ukraine, we have nothing to do with Ukraine. We may have a bizarre president who's hiding his criminal actions by funding a war in Ukraine. We have a corrupt Congress that's profiting somehow from sending our tax dollars to fund Joe Biden's proxy war in Ukraine. But we didn't start that war. Putin started that war, and we're not engaged in it. We're not there. We couldn't get engaged. We have no 155 artillery rounds. Our primary artillery system, we've milked our entire war stock and sent it to Ukraine to kill Ukrainians and Russians. So no, we didn't start any of those wars, Renee. You're reading some newspaper like, I don't know, the Scores or something like that. That's not factual. Nope. The only one there you might be able to make a remote claim is the second Iraq war, but even that's not legitimate. Peter Empires, good evening. I think Julius must sell his watch. Yeah, well, I'll tell that Breitling watch that fetched a lot of money there. What else? Allison Johnson says rather late. Not really. You mean for my broadcast or for your arrival? Well, I have a lot going on, folks. I'm in South Africa and I have to make the most of the time. I mean, no one's sponsoring my trips. No one's paying for my journalism. No one is paying for my flights. And, this stuff adds up, my rental cars. And I've got to make the most of the time I have. Today, I spent in the morning with AfriForum. Ernst von Sell, we did a live broadcast on that. Got some nice views on that. Then we had a nice conversation. From there, I traveled down. I had an afternoon meeting with Kanthan Pillay. And I have a little bit of breaking news on that story. So Kanthan and I met at 4 o'clock, but in between I met with Mark Oppenheimer, and a brilliant guy, Mark Oppenheimer. He's going to come on the program. We're going to talk about a few things, including the Kill the Boer case. Be talking about that very soon. So Mark Oppenheimer, so Ernst von Sell, AfriForum, Mark Oppenheimer, constitutional attorney, and then later it was with Kanthan Pillay. And here's the news break with Kanthan Pillay. Kanthan and I sat down, had a lovely conversation. He's a brilliant guy. And he doesn't broker ignorance, and I love it. He's amazing. And so Kanthan and I talked about it, and I asked him if he'd be interested and willing to do a segment like I do, the Fireside with the Colonels or K-Nako and these others. And he's aware of those segments. I guess he must watch my program periodically. If you're here tonight, Canthan, hi. Or maybe people just talk about it. But Canthan agreed with the concept of the two of us doing a program. So I'm looking for a title for the program. One title I came up with is Iconic with Canthan and Chris. It won't be a regularly scheduled program. It will be episodic, periodically when his schedule accommodates it. And we'll start that most likely after I return back to the States. So I'm looking forward to that. Should be a fantastic conversation. Really excited about that. I hope you find that appealing and interesting as well. And so that's the news on that story with Canthan Pillay. What a great guy. Several of my viewers kept saying he's the smartest guy in South Africa. So I saw Canthan today, and I said, my viewers keep telling me you're the smartest guy in South Africa. And I said, I had to remind him that may be true, at least until I landed in Cape Town. Allison's late to join. Hello, old people, says Matthew Dixon. Garrett Steenkamp, what's the problem about Joyce Malema? What do you mean, what's the problem? Malema is not interested in the government national unity, demands expropriation of the compensation, but the land is not given to the people. It's held by the corrupt elites in government, and he also wants free education, which already exists in public schools. It's just terrible, it's the problem. But he's really talking about free university education for unqualified people, simply given money because of their skin pigmentation. And he called for black emancipation. Apparently, he missed history class and the end of the apartheid era. So anyway, but he's talking about black economic emancipation. Well, if you want black economic emancipation in South Africa, you must remove the ANC and their racist, mal-informed, their wrong-headed policies about economics. And then you can have black emancipation, and black folks in South Africa no longer be shackled by the idiotic macroeconomic policy of a corrupt government that is imprisoning South Africans as serfs. There you go. Layla says, nice one. Which was Iconic with Canthan and Chris. I like that. I came up with that. I like that one. But I am taking titles if you got some suggestions. Matthew Dixon is jockeying for a 5-minute timeout here. Problem with Joyce Malema is Robert Mugabe incarnate. Yeah, he's not nearly as evil as Robert Mugabe. Trust me, Mugabe murdered people. I mean, he's responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands. Malema hasn't even come close to that sort of achievement. We're not aware of him killing anybody. We know Mugabe killed tens of thousands of people. Like Bobby B says, sounds like some kind of ethnocentric socialism. When has it ever been tried? Well, it's been tried, but it's never succeeded anywhere. So, all right, so let's get back to the story here of the EFF. So this is what the EFF had to say. EFF opposes the government of national unity, says will not budge on land, free education, emancipation of black people. Okay, so we only have 146 here tonight. So either one, YouTube is caught on and they're censoring me already, or two, it's Friday night and people out doing better things, or three, interest in the elections is waning because we're down by a significant margin from last night. But it could just be a one-off. But anyway, thanks to 142 people currently here, but just 39 likes. Man, hit that button. Like the broadcast. Okay, so they will not budge on land, free education, emancipation of black people. Yep. It's Deputy President Floyd Shivambu of VBS fame, the Venda Bank scandal, says that Venda, the savings bank, says that going into a government national unity should only be about the sharing of positions. Ooh, okay, not about policy, not about governance, but just, who gets the spoils. Yes, addressing the media today, Deputy President Floyd Shivambu said the party rejects the ANC's decision to form a government national unity. So do I, but I'm not in political power here. We're not going to form part of any government with the DA. We're not going to sit around alongside the DA and the Freedom Front Plus in government as the EFF. Well, your memory is pretty short there, Mr. Shivambu. You did enter governments with the DA and the Freedom Front Plus on multiple occasions at the municipal level. But you're pandering to racists who attribute nonsense to politics in South Africa is disgraceful. It's shameful. Shameful. We're not desperate for positions in government. We're not going to do everything in our power so that we can be appointed to cabinet or some speakers of parliament. Well, you need to do something because you are just an afterthought. Okay, what is with you here? Anyway, so yeah, Joyce Malema is just going on, and he really doesn't know what he's talking about here. God bless it. Why is my browser doing that? Stop doing that. There you go. Finally worked for me there. Sorry. A little trouble with that. I'm having trouble with one of these words here. I need to fix this real quick. So let's see if YouTube move a little faster. It'd be nice. Don't understand what I'm talking about. Don't trust for South Africa political. South Africa's political. I have no idea what you're talking about there, Gert Steenkamp. You don't trust what? You don't trust whom? And what do you not understand? Please be more specific. Loudine is in Howick. How's it going there, Loudine? Why am I always saying you must? Okay. HM Kinar says unions are against the DAFM. Well, of course the unions against that because the unions would rather see the ANC destroy jobs with minimum wage rises and with their disastrous economic policy. Speaking of disastrous economic policy, let's take a look at that, folks. Here's a little, glorious things from the ANC side of the world. Business Tech reports that one of South Africa's biggest employers has hemorrhaged 500,000 jobs. It's a misleading article. I don't know if that's one company or a sector, because I think it's a sector. But manufacturing lost 50,000 jobs in the year to March. 50,000 fewer manufacturing jobs. Wow. That is just crazy. So losing a lot of jobs there. That's a very misleading title to the story. The transport equipment industry saw over 20,000 jobs vaporized. That's 70,000 right there. There were jobs gained in retail, logistics, social services. Oh, that's not sustainable social service. That's taken from taxpayers. It's not actually production in the economy. Yeah, so a lot of jobs shrinking in South Africa. And here's another story from Business Tech. South African ports are ranked among the worst in the world. I think we all know that. We know how bad the ports in South Africa are. Cape Town, Durban, Port Elizabeth, the busiest in South Africa, have been ranked among the world's worst performing container ports, according to the World Bank's recent 2023 Container Port Performance Index, the CPPI. That's a mouthful. The overall global ranking of container ports ranked Cape Town as the lowest out of 405 of 405 measured points. Wow. Gurkha, where's that at? Ngura is at 404, Durban 398, and Port Elizabeth at 391. 405 ports around the world, and Cape Town is the worst container port. Wow. Wow, that's bad, folks. I mean, that's bad. The top performing ports are all over the world, but a lot of them are in Asia. Yangshan in China, number one, Salalah in Oman, Cartagena in Colombia, Tangier in Morocco, Tanjung Pelapas in Malaysia, Chiwan in China, Chai Mep in Vietnam, Guangzhou in China, Yokohama in Japan, I've been to that one, and Algeciras in Spain. I don't even know that one. Yeah, container ports are critical nodes to get goods around the planet, and South Africa has among the worst container ports on the planet. Wow. Last year, South Africa's ports reached a crisis point with extreme congestion, while South African Association of Freight Forwarders, SAF, said that port delays at ports have had direct cost to the South African economy of $98 million or $5.2 million per day. Wow. While the movement of around 7 billion worth of goods have been impeded. 7 billion rand of goods has been impeded. Would I agree that the U.S. government is a neo-Marxist oligarchy? No. Where would you get such nonsense from? Neo-Marxists? No. So Gert Steenkamp is bored. Then, turn on multi-choice. Go watch reruns of Walker, Texas Ranger. You've yet to explain your position. You're just going to sit here and whine about being bored. So there you go. It's just another troll. Yes, I know they're under national control. They shouldn't be under government control. They should be privatized. It'd be much better. Much better. So that's just the bottom line. Hey, did you see who was appointed as the acting sports minister? Yeah. Yes. Ramaphosa appoints Amaro Peña Ramacopa as acting sports minister following Kodwa's resignation. Her appointment comes after he resigned as sports minister on Wednesday. This is the former minister is formally charged with getting 1.7 million rand in bribes. David Mulcahy finds it fascinating. Well, thank you for that, David. Kodwa and his friend, co-accused businessman and former EOH boss Jahan McKay, have been granted 30,000 rand bail. That's nothing. But those poor guys that were accused of domestic terrorism when all they did was tip over a SAPS vehicle that was attacking people at a courthouse in Senegal were given 100,000 rand bail. But they were denied bail for a week, and then they were given 100,000 rand bail, something like that. But this person accuses 1.7 million rand or taking bribes, and a minister gets a 30,000 rand bail. That's just a joke. Once again, that's just like the U.S., no equal protection under the law. State capture enablers Tom Moyane and Nati Nleko lead the MK Party Coalition's negotiating team. Well, wow, I mean, the MK party is just bringing all kinds of Zuma lieutenants into the fold. State capture accused former SARS Commissioner Tom Moyane and disgraced former police commissioner Nati Negleko are part of the MK negotiating team, which met with the ANC today. Insiders privy to the meeting said the two have been appointed to negotiate with the ANC with several other parties about a coalition. So the MK, which refused to be part of negotiations, refused to be part of government national, refused to work with the ANC, is suddenly in negotiations with the ANC. Like I said, folks, don't get too excited about this stuff. All these stuff is opening positions. These parties are making arguments and making claims and putting marks in the ground, and, putting their stakes in the ground, saying we'll never do this, we'll never do that. It's all nonsense. They are craving for power. They all want a seat at the table. They will cave on demands, and they'll reach some sort of an accord. So in this whole situation, sadly, the ANC holds the most cards. Now, if they play the cards well, they'll get what they want. Will they play the cards well? That's the question. But let me just say this, folks. So let's step away from that for just a moment. I want to, say again that just the amazing thing about coming to a place like South Africa, where truly amazing people are at. Today's a good example of it. When South Africa works, it's when the politicians aren't involved. When South Africa works, it's when the social media clowns who are trolls and instigators and race baiters, they're not involved. But just average South Africans. Today, everywhere I went, now I will say this, we all have our share of bad drivers, and we all think we're great drivers, but we all make driving mistakes, and we all do dumb things. But today, I have to tell you, the dangerous conduct of people weaving in and out of 4 lanes of traffic, exceeding the speed limit by at least 40 or 50 kilometers per hour in 120 zone, so that's something else. Then pulling in front of you when you've left a safe gap in the car in front of you in the overtaking lane, when they're traveling slower and whipping over in front of you, and then stomping on their brakes, that I don't get. Also seeing drivers who are texting and swerving in and out of lanes while they're texting, nearly hitting vehicle in front of them. It was crazy. Crazy. I saw this all day today. Like I said, everyone's got their share of bad drivers, but South Africa today, just, man, so many people texting and not driving. I mean, if you can do both, great, but they can't do both. These folks are just doing one badly and the other poorly. Yep, so that's pretty scary stuff. Ronell is here. I don't know if Val's going to happen on this trip, Ronell. The clock's ticking away on the days. I don't have enough days to do this, so we're going to see what happens. But yeah, it's not looking so great there. Ian Cameron must be put in as police commissioner, and that will help us a lot. Well, you say that, Kinnear, but just having a good police commissioner isn't the solution. It's part of the problem, but the real solution for South Africa is much deeper than that. Forensics must be improved, and they need to turn to a country like the United States or someone else like Japan who has good forensics. They need to pay police properly. They need to give them serviceable vehicles. They need to actually prosecute the people that get arrested and not simply just let them walk right back out the door when they get arrested. And they need to weed out the corrupt police. And all of that has to take place. And anyone who comes in as the police minister isn't going to be able to fix that overnight. That's a years-long thing. But it could be a turning point. But I don't think that the ANC will give up any part of the security sector. I just don't think it's going to happen. So Tommy Side says, do you think it's worth considering our move to Namibia? If the A gets into government, that's our only hope. Well, Tommy, you have to be careful because SWAPO is a communist party itself in Namibia. Now, they've governed in a neo-capitalist fashion, but that's just because the gravy train, they can just get their cut of the money. But SWAPO is under pressure, and they have lost a lot of support in Namibia, and they may find themselves on the outs. In fact, they don't even control the major cities. Windhoek is controlled by an opposition party, not by SWAPO. So Namibia is a wonderful place, and governance is pretty darn good, better than South Africa in many respects, but you need to be careful, because when the Liberation Party is threatened with what they believe they're entitled to, the ANC, GNU, PF, believe they're entitled to governance. They're entitled to these big jobs that pay 3 million rand as a speaker and 2 million as a member of parliament. They feel it's theirs, it's owed to them. Well, it's not. That's money paid by taxpayers for you to govern, not for you to live in perpetuity in luxury. That's not. You want to live in luxury? Get off your ass, go outside, found a company, sweat, toil, occupy a space in the marketplace, and dominate it and become fabulously wealthy, like Bill Gates did, or Larry Ellison did, or Elon Musk did multiple times. That's what you need to do. So anyway, this living off the government teat is nonsense. Right. Gus is here. Good to see you again. Cameron's experience on the ground. He's pointed out that experience as a police officer. I'm not aware of Ian Cameron being a police officer. He's an activist. Is he not? Did I miss something? I've interviewed him before. He has a law enforcement background. Look, I have no objection to Ian Cameron. I'm telling you to frame your expectations, ladies and gentlemen. Don't expect that the crime will go away. Don't expect the police will be effective overnight. It took years to destroy the police. It's going to take years to build them back up. But you must have a functioning justice system. As long as Ronnie Bonehead Lamola is there, but I think he's out. The ANC puts idiots in the Justice Department. You're not going to have prosecutions that need to be done. So I agree. A total disregard for traffic rules, like everything. Yeah, no, Jill, it's getting worse. I mean, there's always people that do stuff. They're in a hurry. They rush around, but I mean, it's out of control. It's hectic coming up the Ben Schoeman between Joburg and Pretoria. Absolutely hectic. The driving is just off the charts, bad. I couldn't keep safe distance between the vehicle in front of me, no matter which lane I got in, no matter what speed I traveled at. People just swerving in and out, and they get in front of you and they stomp on the brakes. And I wound up passing the guy because he got so slow in the overtaking lane on the right after I pulled in the left lane, so I'll get away from him. But I'm going the speed limit, and I'm looking down, he's texting and riding the brakes. That happened so many times today. Road rules are now treated like suggestions. Yeah, I think so. Erica says, Gauteng is the worst drivers. Well, it's looking that way. Are you following the unfolding catastrophe Santa Fe deployment of the RC as part of the ascent? Last week, another soldier died. I did not see that. Sorry, thank you for sharing that, filtrationist. I did not see that. I've not been following that story. But Kinnear, please tell me how he's got experience. I'm not challenging you. I'm just asking. It's a legitimate question. What experience does Ian Cameron have as a law enforcement official or as a prosecutor or some legal system? He's a great guy, brilliant guy, nice guy. I've interviewed him, although he's so busy right now. He's kind of ghosting me because he just doesn't have time for me. I appreciate that. But yeah, so I'd like to know. Because we like someone because they're good, because they're honest, doesn't mean that they can fix something or they're the answer. Although, given the options, I think it's one of the best choices. Absolutely. But I'm just asking. Hey, Justin's here. Welcome, Justin. Good to see you again. USA is politically broken as other third world countries, or so it looks from a distance. It does look that way from a distance, Fonseca Kogenberg, but let me just reassure you that while I am critical of what's going on in America, it's not exactly like the country's falling apart. Our infrastructure is sound, despite the lies of the media. I don't drive through potholes. I don't have bridges falling apart on me. We don't have natural disasters anywhere near me. Electricity works all the time. The cable works all the time. The internet works all the time. When something breaks, it's fixed very quickly. People tend to obey traffic regulations and laws. The economy is good, but inflation is killing people. It's not a singular problem for us. It's a worldwide problem. It's a global problem. So it looks that way from the outside because of the way things are reported. It's amazing the things that people believe about America. But today, it's interesting because I did go to Exclusive and buy some books, and the Exclusive at Santon City used to have an entire section devoted to Southern Africa and South Africa. And most of the books there were written by former SADF members and also former government officials, and they were historical, and the current stuff was written by a lot of white journalists. But there are very few black voices. And I don't know if there were many black voices available at the time, but now I notice each time I go back, there are fewer and fewer white voices, even though they're publishing books, and the shelves are full of black voices. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but where were those voices to begin with, and why are the white ones being excluded? There's plenty of bookshelf space there. Anyway, Exclusive is proving to be a bit of a disappointment. Their magazine rack has become quite depressing. The one at Victoria and Alfred Waterfront has almost no magazines. It's a joke. The one in Santon City has magazine numbers, at least 3 or 4 times many magazines, if not more. But still, not a lot there. But Exclusive, I did pick up 3 books today, and it's always a good idea to read things that you don't agree with. So let me just get these 3 books and I'm going to talk to you about them. So don't run off. Hit the like button. I'll be right back. So I'm wondering if I'll be getting honorary leftist affiliation based on the books I bought today. So let me just show you what they are. Okay. It's always good to read what other people are writing if you don't agree with it, so you can see where they're coming from. Also see if there's merit to it. So the first one is by Patrick Tariq Mellett, The Lie of 1652, A Decolonized History of Land. Riveting, a book as much about the present as it is about the past. In it are vital lessons about the formation of culture, language, and identity as they transform over time, space, and distance. Tembeka Nkukaitobi. There's the book. Most of us probably would never bought this book, but I do read things whether I agree with them or not. So from the backside, it says, in this radical critique of the established pre-colonial and colonial history, heritage activist Patrick Tariq Mallet retells the story of dispossession, the destruction of livelihoods, and the brutality of slavery in South Africa, drawing on scholarly work and his own experience of searching for identity. Mallet provides a bold new perspective on the loss of land and belonging. Characters such as Althumoa, Krotoa, and Doman come to life in a story of the founding of a port at Cape Town, over 50 years before Jan van Beek arrived. So there was a port. Where did they ship things to? Latin America, Europe, China? So apparently the Strandlopers built a port 50 years before the Europeans built one there. The Live, 1652, debunks the empty land myth and claims of a Bantu invasion while outlining 220 years of war and resistance. It recounts the history of migration to the Cape by Africans, Indians, Southeast Asians, and Europeans, providing a provocative perspective on the de-Africanization of local people of color. The Live, 1652, explores what Africans lost through the expropriation of land and, by extension, home, belonging, and social cohesion. It is also a plea for restoration and recognition of the ties that bind us as Africans of diverse ethnicities and cultures. Yeah, but it seems to be excluding those of European origin. Anyway, I'll read this, see what I have to say. That should be interesting. So there you go, that's one. All right, so here's another one. This one's about Amilcar Cabral, The Life of a Reluctant Nationalist by Antonio Tomas. It's not in Portuguese, so that's good. I can actually read it. Appreciate that. On January 20, 1973, the Bissau-Guinean revolutionary Amilcar Cabral was killed by militants from his own party, and they blamed the CIA. Cabral had founded the PAGAG in 1960 to fight for the liberation of Portuguese Guinea and Cape Verde. The insurgents were Bissau-Guineans aiming to get rid of the Cape Verdeans who dominated the party elite. Despite Cabral's assassination, Portuguese Guinea became the independent Republic of Guinea-Bissau. The guerrilla war that Cabral had started and led precipitated a chain of events that would lead to the 1974 Carnation Revolution, in Lisbon, toppling the 40-year authoritarian regime. This paved the way for the rest of Portugal's African colonies to achieve independence. Written by a native of Angola, this biography narrates Cabral's revolutionary trajectory from his early life in Portuguese Guinea to his death. He details his quest for national sovereignty, beleaguered by the ethnic-based identity conflicts the national liberation movement struggled to overcome. Antonio Tomas is an associate professor of the Graduate School of Architecture at the University of Johannesburg. He holds a PhD in anthropology from Columbia, and he's worked as a journalist in Angola and Portugal and has written extensively on issues related to Lusophone Africa. So I'll be reading that, and I suspect I probably won't agree with a lot of it, but we'll see. All right, so I'm becoming a unofficial leftist, apparently. The Looting Machine. Warlords, tycoons, smugglers, and the systemic theft of Africa's wealth by Tom Burgess. There you go. So, 30% of the world's oil and minerals, 14% of the world's population, and 43% of the world's poor. Okay. And I'll tell you why I bought it. Only because it says a endorsement by Michaela Wrong, who wrote Our Time to Eat. On the back, it says a brave, defiant book. So let's see what they have to say. The Looting Machine is a searing expose of the global web of traders, bankers, middlemen, despots, and corporators that is pillaging Africa's vast mineral wealth, natural wealth. From the killing fields of Congo to the crude, slick creeks of Nigeria, a grading down of oil, diamonds, copper, iron, gold, and coltan has become a curse that condemns millions to poverty, violence, and oppression. That curse is no accident. This gripping investigative journey takes us into the shadows of the world economy, where secretive networks conspire with Africa's kleptocrats to bleed the continent dry, and like their victims, the beneficiaries of this grand looting have names. Yes. All right. Michiglenny's comment on this. That's interesting. Michiglenny, of course, if I'm not mistaken, is the person who wrote Starvation by Hunger about the Holodomor in Ukraine back during the Soviet Union. All right, what else we got here? Cameron Whiteness also went to townships night with police when they did raids. Yes, he did, but that doesn't mean he's qualified as a police officer or minister. For an immersive move here to South Africa, I can still buy Time magazine at local Spar, not anymore, not in years. Well, you wouldn't want it. Time is just a rag. That book should be treated as fiction. Which one? Okay, Peter Myberg, Cameron's worked on the ground. He does have a degree in policing. Okay, they offer degrees in policing. We have law enforcement degrees in the States. Okay. All his South African history books there marks as fake history, like a rotting fish. Cameron called it Beckettilian number rape. Yeah, he did. I know, I saw it. I'm not the golden boy. But again, that doesn't qualify for the role. Stambiso Pinga, we want our land back. Nothing wrong about our parents died during apartheid colonization. We're still made poor. Parents were jailed. We're still poor. Well, I'm sorry to hear, Pinga, that your parents were jailed. When were they jailed and what were they jailed for? And why are you poor? Why are you poor? The ANC has controlled the government, the economy for 30 years. The ANC has stolen trillions of rand. The ANC has enriched 500,000 cadres and made them fabulously wealthy. The ANC has facilitated the growth of a black middle class that's limited to just 5 million people, not the other 38 million black South Africans. So I'd love to hear more from you, Mr. Pinga. Please tell me more. It's interesting. Want our land back. What land did you have taken? A lot of people did have land taken in South Africa, but what land did you lose? Was it in Heidelberg? Was it in Northwest? Was it in Western Cape? Where was land taken from you? And how old were you when it was taken? And do you honestly think that land is how people build wealth? I don't own any land. I'm not starving. I'm not starving. I'm not rich, but I'm not starving. I got an education. I worked my tail off. I earned my way in life. That's not directed at you. I'm just saying land isn't the answer. And most black South Africans don't actually want land, except to build a plot to put a house on. So you can say you want your land back, but you got to give a little more information than that. It's what land? What land? Paul Storm. Hey, I met Paul Storm. Good to see you there, Paul. There's so many books I want to read, but I cannot afford them. Our libraries also don't stock much. That's for exclusive. They stock Democrat. They don't even have Kaylee McGee. Yeah, I know. They don't carry the stuff, but I used to get good history books on the conflicts in Africa, and you don't see them anymore. Have you read The Covenant? Yes, Mark Meyer. That's why I'm interested in South Africa. I read The Covenant in high school. I've told that story many, many times. The book by James Mitchell is my favorite book. It's my favorite author. Yep. We will never forgive you, and you carry that dark cloud with you the rest of your lives until you apologize. God will never forgive. Well, Stambiso Pinga, you don't have to forgive me because I didn't do jack squat to you. So I'm not looking for your forgiveness. There's nothing to forgive. I've never harmed you. And your bigotry and racism, including me and whomever you feel harmed you, is just sad and pathetic. So I hope that, you actually spend some time looking up to God and apologizing to him for your hatred and bigotry of others. I don't hate you because of this. But you're apologize? Apologize for what? For what? I don't apologize for anything. In fact, you should apologize to me because I'm keeping millions of South Africans alive with antiretrovirals that we manufacture, that we produce, that we developed at great risk and cost ourselves. And if you're saying, wait a second, Chris, you're not in pharmaceuticals. Yes, but I invest in it. I invest in producing HIV drugs, antiretrovirals, which we give the money for to South Africans. So I have nothing to apologize for. You'd be starving to death if it wasn't for us. Debzan says there are still tribal grazing rights around Hospital Hill. You might have seen cattle there. No, I didn't, but thank you, Debzan. Jose, Colonel, have you ever read African Chaos? That's a recent one, right? I have it. Yeah. Trust Magunhe. This Africa go back to Holland. That doesn't make any sense, buddy. I'm guessing English isn't your first language, so I'm not going to be harsh and rude to you. Trust, I don't think we understand what your point is. Are you trying to say that you're an African and that others need to go back to Holland? Well, if that's what you're saying, and I don't know that it is, so don't take offense, but I'm just trying to react to the text I see here. If that's what you're saying, then you're very poorly informed. Nobody is from Holland. Nobody's from Holland. No. People from the Netherlands established the Cape Colony in 1652 under the direction of a colored man who was part Asian and part white, Jan van Riebeck, in 1652. And those Netherlanders, which included people from Holland, came here and they intermarried with French Huguenots who escaped France after the brutal slaying of the Huguenot population when the Edict of Nantes was revoked in 1680. And they fled after 90 years of the Edict of Nantes protecting French religious rights. Some Huguenots came here, they mixed with those folks, and then a lot of Germans came here, and others have mixed into that over time, including Khoi and San, and even some other Africans from time to time. So who's going to go to Holland? There's nobody in Holland. There are no Hollanders here. Nobody speaks Hollandaise. That's a sauce. So you need to learn a little bit more about history and formation of people. For instance, if you go back to 1800, there were no such thing as Zulu. Didn't exist. Didn't exist. Shaka forged an empire. The murderous Shaka who killed all his siblings and murdered those of his concubines who became pregnant. God forbid one of his sons rise up to take him out. So he killed all of his offspring. Yeah, no condoms in that house. Yes. All right, ANC stole the future people. Exactly. All right, Marxist agents of snakes pin on here. Should read the Covenant. Yeah, the Covenant's good. Yeah, the trolls are here. They always are. Well said about unaid. ANC will never forgive land. Okay. Yeah, so here, let's just put this in perspective. So here's the situation. One of the major proponents for expropriation without compensation, of course, is the economic freedom fighters. The economic freedom fighters' argument is not to give the land to black South Africans. They don't want that. Read their manifesto. Read what they're about. They want the land to be given to the government. So the government owns all the land. So how are black South Africans any better off by giving government to a corrupt, giving land to a corrupt, thieving government? You're not. You're serfs into perpetuity. And oh, by the way, the ANC wants to put 1 million black South Africans on farms as subsistence farmers. How does that make them wealthy? How does that make their lives good? Especially when most of them have no farming skills. They have no access to capital. They have no extension training. They have no equipment, no implements. You're just consigning them to long-term poverty. Long-term poverty. Yes, Shaka never had children because he murdered all of his concubines who fell pregnant. Once you're pregnant, that's a child, LMC. Just because it hasn't come out of the womb doesn't mean it's not a Homo sapien. It's in development. As his concubines became pregnant, he murdered them. So he'd have no offspring. He did have children. They never escaped the womb. So let's be clear about that. ANC will never give the land to poor. Yeah, the ANC is not going to give any land to anybody. It's just nonsense. Something to fall back on when people don't have roads, they don't have water, they don't have electricity, they're getting raped and murdered in their homes, robbed. Yep. So that's the EFF's position on land. They're not giving land to anybody. They want the land themselves, the political elites. The ANC, we'll see where they go with it. There's no evidence of that. LMC, I direct you to John Laband, the foremost authority and researcher and historian on the Zulu. John Laband, Professor John Laband, Dr. John Laband, a previous guest on my program. You can ask him about it if you don't believe me. Yep. It's interesting you say there's no evidence of that because LMC, you were right here the other night posting one of my videos with something outlandish without any evidence, but you're claiming there's no evidence for that. But anyway, that's fine. Hey, Lori Letton is in from Finland. Welcome, Lori. Good to see you again. How's it going up there? I don't even know how to greet people in Finnish. That's a shame. I've been to Finland several times. What a great country it is. What a great country South Africa is. Unfortunately, it's run by lunatics, kind of like America and the UK, Germany, France, Russia. Wow, they're all run by lunatics. We're going to have to take these things back for ourselves, folks, and take over our governments and get rid of these clowns. Anyway, so that's what the EFF wants. They want a government, no government national unity unless there's expropriation without compensation, which is legal theft of land. There's already a process in place. And see, that's why isn't there a debate about that? Why? No one even talks about that. No one says, wait a second. The Constitution already allows the South African government to expropriate land. They just have to pay the owners. So why is anybody talking about why aren't we using that? Well, the South African government isn't using it because the ANC steals the money. They underfund the budget for the people responsible for acquiring land, and only a small amount of land is acquired. The amount of land that's acquired is oftentimes never transferred to the poor, never transferred to land aspirants. And land aspirants aren't given extension services. They're not given credit. They're not given farm tools. They're just sent out like the Zimbabweans did. Here's your land. Here you go. With no knowledge of farming, no experience, no skills, no capital, no equipment. And they fail, by and large, over and over again. How is anybody better off from that? Nobody's better off from that. That's stupid. It's idiotic. If you want those people to succeed, you need to help them. Paige says, Chris, I wish to ask you to ask that gentleman, has he built anything? Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I doubt it's built anything. If the ANC cared, they would have developed Cape Town, East Coast into economic something. Baden-Powell has great potential. The whole world is a loony bin. Yes, it is, Erica. The whole world is a loony bin. No, there's been plenty of time, 30 years. I mean, the ANC is really sad during the campaign. Just give us more time. Just give us more time. Just give us more time. How much more time do you need? You've already had a lifetime of experience running the country on the ground, and things just get worse. Yep. So that's the reality here. Notice the audience is much smaller tonight, folks. I hope it's just because it's Friday night and not that we're losing people, because it has been an interesting ride so far. But let me take a look, and I want to thank people about what's going on here, and then give you another rundown of what happened today. By the way, Hunter Biden's trial, he'll probably be found innocent, even though it's obvious he's guilty. They've adjourned. The jury's been sent home for the day, and the court has adjourned. Defense attorney said that James Biden will not be called to testify, nor would any other witnesses. Ooh. Defense is not calling by it. Defense attorney said they have not decided if Hunter Biden will testify. They have asked for the judge to give a court or judge a directed verdict of not guilty, but that's commonplace in a criminal trial. The defense attorneys will try that, but it almost never works, and there's no basis for declaring him innocent here. But yeah, so that's kind of crazy and unfortunate. I'll tell you what, News 24 is still going hard against Paul Mashatile, talking about how he repurposed the housing agency while millions flowed to a friendly law firm. Scary stuff what's going on there. But I have to say this today, folks. While South Africa has a lot of bad infrastructure, it also has some good infrastructure. By and large, most of the roads I've been traveling on, even through Diepsloot and places like that, are in pretty darn good shape. Now, robots aren't working all over the place. That's a problem. That's a traffic incident or a traffic incident waiting to happen. The robots aren't working. They weren't working in Northcliffe last night. They weren't working in Diepsloot. They weren't working today in Pretoria, all around Unisa. None of the lights were working there, but most of the other lights are working. But infrastructure is much better shape than we often realize, but not the rails and not the rural roads. Biden also owned a game farm with money hidden. Gosh, I don't know about that. Yes, by the way, we have a meet and greet tomorrow here at Salsa Mexican joint, 11 a.m. I have a 12:30 appointment with someone else just right next to it, so that'll go well. Everyone's welcome. And then if you're coming to Loftus-Versfeld tomorrow to watch the Bulls, the quarterfinal against Benetton, I ran into some of the players down here today. I saw the Italian players. And then I also saw Marco van Staden. Escom was eating dinner. Ran into him. I didn't say hi. Didn't want to interrupt him. And he's with some rugby player I've never seen before. So must be somebody he knows. Anyway, so Loftus tomorrow, 11 o'clock, meet and greet. Then Sunday night at Tapas in Port Elizabeth in Cabrera, in Nelson Mandela Bay. We'll be down there. Ronaldo and I, you can meet a future member of parliament and a retired colonel. And we're looking forward to it. Probably the usual suspects will be there. I suspect maybe Ants will make it. Maybe Nick Groves will be there and some others. And looking forward to it. I hope you all can make it. So that's two upcoming. I have to sort my trip out after that. But I will be going to Durban, or to KZN, I should say. And I've got to sort out where I'm going to stay and who I'm going to see. I've finally been in touch with John Tungay. And John is not available on Thursday. So it's going to be a rush thing to get up and see him. So I have to sort that one out. Anyway, so then back up here to Gauteng for a few days. Hopefully the Bulls win, so we have another game next week right here at Loftus. That would be awesome. They get to a semifinal if they win tomorrow. And if they don't win tomorrow, it's going to be hugely disappointing. But apparently not a lot of tickets been sold. That's very shameful, very sad. But South Africans are fickle when it comes to supporting rugby. They haven't entirely bought in. The only games they seem to buy in fully are the Stormers and Bulls games. It doesn't matter what competition. Stormers, Bulls, Western Province Bulls, they show up for that. But other stuff, they just don't show up and rock up in the numbers they should. But, half-empty stadiums are not that bad a thing, because the stadiums for most URC teams only hold 4 to 10 or 12,000 people. These ones hold 40, 50,000. USR got rid of landowners by violence for communist troops. Starved for generations, just say Canada fed them for 35 years. Yep, and we've been feeding Zimbabwe for 20 years. But then giving them the land with the resource and training to do it would be the right way to do it. ANC does not do that. Well, I don't think anybody should be given land unless they've been defrauded of land. If their land was stolen, then giving land is okay. But people shouldn't get land just because they're taking people's land. That's wrong. Or because they want land. They should buy it if they want it. Now, if they're poor and don't have the credit, the government's trying to increase ownership and make the system more balanced, then they can come up with credit schemes with low interest or no interest loans and that sort of thing, or even some grants. But taking people's land is just not right. Who's going to pay? Well, money's allocated in that budget every year, but it's only like $35 million, not much money. Oh, and there's a super chat from Bendover. So what's the news about the coalition? Not much on that front. I'll talk about what Ramaphosa said last night just a moment. So 50 Rand super chat from Bendover. Thank you for that. Getting used to this evening routine now, says Van Sal Kogenberg. Well, Van Sal Kogenberg, it's usually 6 p.m. I do the news, but I am running around today up to Pretoria, down to Joburg, up to Pretoria, back and forth all day long. Drove hundreds of kilometers, and it's only like 40 kilometers between two places for different events and different appointments. Tomorrow, I'm not driving anywhere. That's the plan. The car's going to sit in the garage downstairs, and I'll be here all day at Loftus and around Loftus. At least that's the plan. So it will cost too much, and it does. And saying thank you, Bendover, for your first super chat of 50 rand. I do appreciate that. Bongi Matabula says, good evening. Welcome to you, Bongi. Hochanit. What's the Hilijan? Although that's not appropriate. That's today. It's evening, so I can't remember how to say that in Swana correctly for the evening. Ian Thomas says, ANC will form a government national unity to tackle pressing issues. Exactly the same as Democratic Alliance multi-charter. No, it's not. Ian Thomas, the multi-party, is that coming from a press release? It's not factual. The multi-party charter was exclusively to evict the ANC. It wasn't an alliance. It wasn't an agreement for a coalition. It was simply to get rid of the ANC. I was there. I covered it. Asked the questions directly of the 7 parties that formed it. Yeah, that's not what it was. So the media, if they're saying that, are factually wrong. That's because they're lazy and they're just incorrigible. So Bendover, what's the news about the coalition? Well, last night, Cyril Ramaphosa went on after the National Executive Committee meeting to tell the nation about the importance of calm and respecting the election results and how the ANC has a plan, and they've been planning for this all along. What I think Ramaphosa was doing is buying time to calm the financial markets down, to calm the credit markets down, to calm South Africa down, while he is busy passing money around behind the scenes, most likely, trying to buy influence within his party so that he can survive this and get rid of the Radical Economic Transformation faction so he can go into a coalition with a party that they don't want. I like your credit option. Please expand on it. Sounds interesting. Keenan, what credit option? What did I miss? Robert Rankin. Sorry, late missed the date for the PE. That's Sunday at 5 p.m. at Tapas. As long as my flight is delayed. Boy, did you see last night the Cape Town flight was delayed for like 5 hours? The FlySAF Air flight was delayed, didn't get in until 12:44 in the morning. Apparently, they said sniffer dogs went out there. Somebody claimed it was a bomb threat. I didn't see that in the press anywhere today, but we know that happened last night because we watched it on Flight 24. We could see that the plane hadn't left, and it finally left, and we were tracking it in midair. So, wow. Oh, for the land. Okay, thank you, Keenan Terrablanche. Yeah, for the land. No, it's exactly, well, that's what a reasonable government would do. Instead of shaking down corporations for equity and giving to the likes of Cyril Ramaphosa and Tokyo Sexwally, what they should have done if they shook down these corporations, which I'm not agreeing, but if they did it, they should have put that equity in National Sovereign Wealth Fund. That money could be used to purchase land for those wanting to become farmers from willing buyer, willing seller basis. Yeah, it's possible. This channel is refreshing. Tell it as it is. Thanks. Well, you're welcome, HM Kinar. That's what I do. And it looks like we're not getting the audience we had again. I hope it's because it's a Friday night. There's a song by Johnny Kemp back in the early 1990s or late 80s called It Just Got Paid. It's Friday night and it just got paid. The only song he ever had that ever tracked that I know of, Johnny Kemp. Friday night and just got paid. Well, those super chats are coming in. I won't get paid tonight, but I will get eventually paid by YouTube for that stuff. Yeah, no, it's all about the telling the truth. Please check out BRC. What is BRC Ixopo? I don't know what that is. Let me look that up. Bricks Ixopo? Is that a typo or? Okay, that doesn't look like a word. The first segment looks like a word, but the first part looks like an acronym. Let's see what that is. Buddhist retreat. Oh, yeah. No, I know about that. That's Jeremy Nell asked me if I want to cover that story. Okay. Thank you for that, Jason. No, I won't have time for that in this trip. Friday by Rebecca Black, The Memories. I don't know that. Yeah, most farm workers are not qualified farmers. They don't know anything other than basic tasks that they're functioning. Some are, but most aren't. And a lot of the farm workers aren't even South African. They're Mozambicans, they're Malawians, they're Zambians, they're lots of Zimbabweans. Mark Purchase is here. Good evening, Mark. Good evening. This is not the original channel. I know it's not the original channel. What's happening there? How would you describe the ideology of the Biden regime? I would call it a demonic leftist effort to undermine the social integrity of the nation with a warped concept and worldview. Yep, that's what I would say about the Biden regime. So what about this being the second channel? What I missed? Yeah, this is the second channel, but I've got lots of channels. But really, the main focus is this channel and my Rugby Ascendant channel. Has the country about something similar like this credit option for land as you put it, sovereign wealth fund? No, they haven't. Oh, has any country? Kina, has any country? I'm sorry, I misread it. Has any country done that? Yeah, Peru transferred title deed to occupants of land and gave them instant equity. They had something they could trade or they could borrow against with a bank that could be repossessed by the bank as an asset. And so they had something tangible to borrow money. And it led to mass growth, mass agricultural productivity increases across the board. And they facilitated that with grants to help the farmers, the aspiring farmers. But as far as buying land, that has happened in other places. I'm not thinking of a place where it comes to mind right now. But we've seen land essentially, not in that fashion, but essentially bought by the Zimbabwean government back in the day. And pretty much it was along those schemes. But most of those farms didn't go to the poor. They went to their GNU PF cadres, the rich connected. RPO says, good evening. If I may, what is the purpose of your visit to the country? Does it have to do with the asking for U.S. election observers? That's not a rude question, but I don't know why you presume that. What made you think that? I have nothing to do with the Democratic Alliance, and I'm not an election observer. I could have been an election observer, but it took too long for my government to give me my passport back, so I didn't bother applying for one because I wasn't sure I was coming. I'm an independent journalist, and I cover South Africa unlike any other journalist on the planet. And I cover the news unlike any other journalist on the planet. Show me someone who covers the world in the same fashion I do. I travel the world. I meet people. I interview people from all over the world, from all walks of life, all parties, all ethnicities, all faiths. And I talk on all topics. I've interviewed the head of the Macadamia Nut Association in South Africa. I've interviewed the head of the Poultry Association in South Africa. I've interviewed panel beaters. I've interviewed political party leaders, candidates for office, musicians, actors, you name it. Just regular people, people involved in all sorts of things. I come to South Africa for events. Every trip has a focus event. My first trip in 2022, the name of the tour was the I'm Not a Garden Boy tour. I'm not that garden boy. That was after Ian Cameron and Becca Tilley had that altercation. And that was around the time I came. So I called it the Not a Garden Boy tour. And the focus of that trip was the Sevens World Cup in Cape Town. And that was the basis for everything was planned around that. The next trip was in January of 2023, in February 2023. And Steve Hofmeyer was supposed to play at the Talon Monument. And so the anchor event for that trip was that concert. But the cowards that run the Talon Monument canceled and reneged on the contract and violated the terms, but Steve didn't sue them. So he wound up performing at Velbedocht, and I went there, and to 5 other provinces. Then the next trip was in July and August of 2023, and that was the Not Another Brick in the Wall tour, because I was accredited as a journalist to go to the BRICS convention, and then also as a journalist to cover the multi-party charter. So I covered those 2 events, plus many other things. I meet musicians like Steve Hofmeyer, Monty Jackson, Donnie van der Westhuizen, Giselle on these trips. I go to vineyards, I film documentaries, and you may be asking why. Because South Africa has a corrupt media landscape that distorts the truth and is a heavily leftist-leaning outfit. And so South Africans are starved for the truth. Now, they don't have to believe me or my decades of experience as an analyst, as an intelligence officer, as a published author, as a historian, as a political scientist, as a practitioner, as a university professor at the undergraduate level, the postgraduate level. They don't have to believe any of that. But you can take what you want from it. And you're welcome to listen. You're welcome to go elsewhere. But that's what I do. And I don't have any self-interest in South Africa that would lead me to get you to try to do this or try to do that. I simply seek the truth and the best outcomes for all South Africans, black, white, and brown. That's what it's all about. And I do the same in America. I just ran for political office and I lost there. I spent what I consider to be a fortune. Probably some of you are wealthy, you don't think it's a fortune. But to me, it was a fortune. I drained a savings account that I had not touched in 5 years other than putting money into it to save that money. I drained another savings account that I put money in for 9 years saving that money. That's all gone. And on top of that, I had 2 credit card bills, one for $4,200 and the last one for $4,800, financing my campaign to run for office to do the right thing. And I lost. So I'm the commander of the veterans organization in my community, and it's a dumpster fire mess that's been like that for 30 years. But leaders don't shy away from challenges. When the challenge presents itself, a leader gets engaged and they try to affect change for the better. And that's why I do the program I do. So what do I get out of it? Well, not money, not fame, although it is kind of cool. People recognize me all the time. I really enjoy that. That's kind of fun meeting people who recognize me. But what do I get out of it? Well, I get to keep my mind sharp and stay intellectually engaged in the thing that is what I've done my entire life. Be a communicator, be a historian, be an analyst, be a political scientist, be a leader every day, 7 days a week. And that is compensation for me. Plus, I meet incredible people here in Europe, in the United States. I've interviewed all kinds of amazing people. I've met many people. And not just that, but my viewers. Today, someone I met with called my viewers my fans. I said, I'm going to Port Elizabeth, which is really inconvenient for me. I'm going to Durban, which is really inconvenient for me because I didn't budget time for that. And I have to be back. So now I'm really jumping from place to place, and it's really exhausting, and I'm not able to accomplish all the things I hope to. And he said, why are you doing that? I said, because people are asking of me. They're demanding. They want me to come. They want to meet me. They want me to chat with them. So I'm spending hundreds of more dollars to do that for folks. So that's who I am. That's who I am. So, people don't like it. That's fine. They can foot set. But the people come on here with their rude nonsense and try to play this stupid game when they try to just make a statement and don't back it up with any facts. When you're not talking to some guy that sits around and drinks energy and eats crisps and doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, I eat energy and I eat shit crisp, but I know what the hell I'm talking about. I've been there. I've done that. Or I've researched and I've written about it. That's correct, Patrick. Sunday evening tapas in Gaza. All right. So what did I miss here? So RPO, that's my purpose. My purpose is to make people think critically. My purpose is to unite South Africans, and I have a special personal interest in 3 groups of South Africans in particular, which I promote, their culture and language. The first are Afrikaners and Afrikaans, but not just Afrikaners, but anyone speaks Afrikaans. So that's the first thing that I have a special affinity for and promote. Number 2, Tswana speakers. I lived in Botswana, and Setswana is a language I was familiar with, and the culture. And so I promote that as well. I have a great affinity for the Tswana peoples, the Bafokeng, the Bangmanwato, the Baralong, all of them. And then there's also the Basotho to a lesser degree, who I don't know very well, but I find them fascinating, and I try to promote them. I went to the Golden Gate Park in the Free State to go to the Basotho Cultural Village to bring that to my viewers. I've been to Blood River. I've been to Table Mountain for my viewers. I tried to go to Colenso and Spincolt, but it didn't work out. And I've also been to Isandlwana, Works Drift, you name it, I've been there. I've also been to battlefields all over America, Gettysburg multiple times for my viewers, and then also Antietam, as well as battlefields in North Carolina. All right, so Friday night people out after a long week while they still have some money left their payday. Yeah, I think that's why we have a smaller audience tonight. I hope that's it. Jason Fender says, hey, Colonel, make time for yourself. Jason, there's time for me after I've passed from this existence to whatever comes after this, stardust, heaven, hell, God forbid. There'll be time for rest then. So now there are too many important things that need to be done, and I do them as best I can. U.S. history of opening Western territories, allowing people to get land title. What about it, Gus? You're a landscaper, not a garden boy. Yeah, Beckett Silly's not fired, Faith Naidu. Hey, welcome to. He won't be on there because the ANC screwed up the list. By the way, it was my coup that I was going to tell you about. So I need to read the list, and I'm going to make a video about how the ANC has really screwed the pooch, and most of the ANC members of Parliament will not return because of the way they made the list. Awkward Leon says South Africa has to stop race-based policies. Yep. Why isn't there international? Well, that's another reason why I do this, Awkward Leon, because there is no outrage. Why is no outrage in South Africa about it? The media landscape simply tolerates BE. They are part and parcel of this bigotry, racism, and destructive policy that harms all South Africans. Yep. Keenan says, okay, because your idea sounds good, but it's an entirely different story and actually implementing. Surprised the EFF never articulated an idea like this since they're so land hungry. Well, that's because they're morons. They're not land hungry. They're populists who are going with the narrative they think is going to enrich them and get them into perpetuity in government. That's what it's all about. It's not about actually helping people. You honestly think the EFF wants to help? You don't, but people think the EFF wants to help people? No. You think MK wants to help people? No. The ANC, much of the ANC doesn't want to help people. They want to help themselves. Some do. I've talked about this many, many times. I wrote an article on LinkedIn years ago about it, and I shared that with people recently. It was in 2018. I published an article about South Africa land and poverty, and I talked about this. Okay. Julian Smith says, thank you for covering events South Africa. It's my pleasure. And then Patrick says, just arrived, saw you're going to be for a meet and greet Sunday evening. That's correct. And Erica gave a super chat of 70 Rand. Super sticker. Thank you for that. Whoops, it jumped on me again. God bless. What is going on here? Okay, there we go. All right. The super chats help me find the text a lot easier because I can see the colors. And Jackie Smith said, we appreciate your love for South Africa. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And I appreciate all the love and respect that comes back my direction. I don't appreciate the trolls, but they've got to find something to do with their lives. Julie says, hello, we love you, Chris. Thank you so much. What's the general opinion of Americans and white South Africans? Is apartheid still linked to the thought of white South Africans, or is that opinion shifted? RPM, most Americans have no idea about South Africa, and at this stage, most Americans know very little about apartheid unless they've gone to university and they've been indoctrinated about what apartheid wasn't. So there's not a general opinion. I could ask 10 Americans in Pennsylvania about apartheid, and they wouldn't know what I'm talking about. You can ask them about South Africans, and many of them be astonished to find that there are white people in South Africa because they have a preconceived notion of Africa. But by the same token, I can ask 10 South Africans questions about America, and 9 of them will get it completely wrong because all they have of America is what they see on Mnet. Yep. Faith says, you say you're seeking the truth. What is the truth in this country? Why are things going down in this beautiful country? Help me understand. Well, Faith, things are going down because of craven political power and self-aggrandizement, self-enrichment, which is what it's all about. And it's happening everywhere. It's happening in the United States. People are in power. We've allowed people to get elected who are not serving people. They're not servant leaders. They're scum the world over. And they're self-interested, or they're interested for the political party for craving political power and not serving the people. And so this has led to the mess we're in today. We also have people who have a warped worldview who think that it's appropriate to make up pronouns and then put people in prison because we don't know what the hell you're talking about. That's no such word as zer, zem, zee, zez in English. It doesn't exist. And I'm not going to entertain the mental delusion and fantasy of someone who just makes stuff up. I'm not going to butcher our language so that it's unintelligible. We don't understand. I mean, reading an article the other day about one person in America, and the media writes there and they and them. I'm like, who are the other people? I'm not going to entertain that nonsense. And no one should. No one should. And this transgender thing is a whole other thing. 1/10 of 1% of people have gender dysphoria. 1/10 of 1%. 1/10 of 1%. But it dominates headlines, and that's all we hear about because there's a political agenda here. So, Faith, the reason things are screwed up is because you have people who are enriching themselves and not servant leaders. That's what's going on. And the truth of you can decide for yourself what you believe is true, but I have nothing but the truth to give you. And if you don't believe it, I'm not saying you don't, but I'm saying if you don't believe it, that's fine. You don't have to. It's like the gentleman was here earlier said, I'm bored. Then leave. Leave. I'm not twisting your arm. You're not getting paid to be here. You're not paying to be here. This is free. So it's free. This is supported by advertising that YouTube makes, and I get a little bit of coin off that. And if I was getting coin, they'd be getting coin. So, it's what people make it out to be. By the way, today I was at Cape Union Market. I got some more Kiwi shirts similar to this. This is a Eddie Bauer or a LL Bean shirt, but similar to the nice light ones that you get here in South Africa. Really like those. So I picked those up there. So Faith, I don't know if I answered your question, but I tried. But there's only one truth. There's no your truth and my truth. That's nonsense. That's gobbledygook from leftists who simply want to obfuscate and mislead people. There are truthful things. There are facts. Now, how people interpret them can be a different story. Yep. We sure get a lot out of you. Knowledge. I always learn something new. Hey, Lulu, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Kinar says, I watch Trump and now Biden trails, and I see a huge difference between the two. The judge on Biden is so professional. Prosecutor has his ducks in a row. While with Trump, I couldn't make tails. Don't understand. Okay. We're headed for tribal warfare in this country. In Faith's opinion, very possible, but not a guarantee that that's going to happen. Shania Harrismith. Yes, Matthew, I've been to Harrismith. I always stop at the engine station on the highway just before that. Usually get something. That's a nice one. Other than the damn birds in the trees, there's so many birds nesting up there. What else we got here? And then Gray one gave €6. Thank you for your work, Chris. More majorum. Thank you. Layla says thank you. Also grew up with Tswanas and have huge respect. Yeah, Kinnear. Me too. As a people, I mean, you can stereotype a bit as a people. The Tswanas and the Setswanas, but yeah, the Buffalo King. I mean, these are people that work hard. They have good respect and culture for communities, and a lot of them are successful. I mean, look in Botswana. There was no express delivery service. The lady started the cheetah service, and became fabulously wealthy because she found a market that no one was in, and she built a good business, and she ran it effectively, and the people who worked for her worked hard, and there was a great work ethic. It's amazing. No, I have great respect for this one of people. No, not all of them. There's criminals, there's rapists, there's murderers, there's pedos. Everybody's got that. But as a group of people, they have a good work ethic. And the relationship with Afrikaners, in my experience, is pretty good. I mean, there's Afrikaners in the government in Botswana. They're Botswana, and they serve. The former agriculture minister under Kama was a white guy. He's an Afrikaner, speaks Afrikaans first, speaks Tswana second in English. Tswana's not that great, though. Yeah, at least I don't remember being that great. I'm too busy collecting Lay's chips. We're very grateful for Chris for his time. We may not always agree with what he says to say, but his voice is a brave one. The media vacuum. I respect free speech. We need these voices. Well, Paul, thank you very kindly for that. I'm not really sure what you don't agree with. People always say they don't always agree, but that's cool. But you shouldn't always agree. I mean, that's just an echo chamber. You should find things you disagree with, and that's cool. But they need to be factual. You can have opinions. People can have opinions, but you need to back with something. You can't just go, well, you know. I mean, that's not legitimate. But if your opinion is different, and if you differ, like for instance, the ANC lost the election. In my analysis, this is not because of MK. It's because of their failures. You can disagree with Matt. We can look at the facts. The fact is that the ANC lost 4 million votes, 10.4 million to 6.4 million, a 17% decline in the vote total with a lower vote turnout, which makes it so bad. And I attribute that to their failure, not to MK. MK, I looked at the number of votes, 2.3 million, and in my assessment, half of those came, or half, about 500,000 came from the EFF. The 1.8 million came from ANC not voting, so it wouldn't have mattered, or they took about 1,900,000 votes. Now, we can disagree on that. We can disagree with the outcome of it, and that's a matter of opinion and different analysis. But people can't make up the facts. But thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. And he's back. He said, I lived with Bangman Wado of Botswana, too. Curious that just a few kilometers outside the Americans erected an American Army base. Okay, once again, there's no such thing. See, this is the problem. You get people who just come on here and lie. That's a lie. What U.S. Army base? See, here's the problem with people like N. I was the military officer in Botswana, Botswana. I lived there. There's no American base. That's horse manure. Total fiction. Like the American Air Base. No. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. It's a BDF air arm base. There are no American troops there. There's no American CIA there. There's no American aircraft there. That's simply fiction. And in fact, we rarely have ever been to that air base. We've landed more South African air bases than we have ever with Botswana. That's just total nonsense. Total nonsense. See, people just throw that stuff out there. Now, and you're going to have to prove your point, or you're just propagandizing. There's no American Army base. American Army base. See, that's a new one. It's always the American Air Base, but now it's the American. Tepe Patswa is the major air arm base in Botswana. There's no American presence there. It's a lie. It's a lie. What else we got here? Hang on a second. The lies of politicians. Kenny Kunene said going into a DA alliance is splitting in the great. Yeah, Kenny Kunene is a convicted felon, and I don't really have any respect for him. He can say what he wants. Zilla during apartheid. What's that? I don't know about Zilla during apartheid. Have you ever approached ANC EFF for an interview? Seamus, I've approached the ANC multiple times, and they simply don't answer the email. I've never approached the EFF. I don't talk to racists. If I'm aware somebody's a racist, I don't talk to them. If they behave like a racist, I don't talk to them. I have no respect for racists. Racists are really stupid people. They just are. They just are. If you hate someone or you don't like someone or you want to give someone advantage or disadvantage based on their physical appearance they have no control over, then there's something wrong with you. You're a mental defect. And the EFF are a bunch of mental defects. So I have no interest in talking to them whatsoever. And I will not give them a platform. Now, if Julius Malema came to me and said, can I have an interview? I'd contemplate it, but just Julius Malema's. Yeah, so Seamus, there's the answer. I have approached the ANC multiple times. I just gave up eventually. They just don't even answer the messages, don't answer phone calls, don't answer WhatsApp, don't answer emails, nothing. Dylan says, I'm just down the road from Loftus. Welcome, Pretoria. Well, thank you. It's more like welcome back. I've been to Pretoria probably about 500 times. Yep. Brandon says, many Americans think Africa is a country. Yes, and many South Africans think America is a whole bunch of things, and they're completely wrong too. What's your point, Brandon? Heard Americans think Africa is in Texas. Yeah, okay, thank you. Faith says South Africa is in huge trouble because of tribalism. It's in huge trouble because of corruption. Tribalism can survive when everyone's rising. Tribalism wasn't a problem in Yugoslavia under Tito because he quashed it. It was still there, but the economy grew until Tito died, and the economy was fine for a decade until it collapsed. When the economy collapsed, then differences, faith, language, ethnicity, religion were all brought to the table by corrupt politicians, meant to divide people. And the same thing is happening now. Same thing's happening now. Cyril Ramaphosa says they've agreed to invite people to form a government. So that's on Twitter. Let me go there, see if I'm logged in. I don't think I'm logged in here. Twitter. I don't think I'm logged in, so I'm not going to be able to get there. It's on the phone. Damn it, I hate that. Yeah, well, let me sign in. So I hate Twitter sucks if you don't have your account. Yeah, but Ramaphosa just sent a tweet out. So anyway. All right, Etienne says, does the government or the people hold power? Meaning, is it possible for citizens to challenge the government about a decision they made if it's proven that the majority of citizens disagree? Well, in South Africa, citizens challenge government all the time. We saw government and government figures. We see the government being challenged on national health insurance, the government being challenged on the Bella bill. We see the government challenged on expropriation on compensation, and a host of other issues. So that challenging is very robust in South Africa, unlike other countries. Can I give you Rolf Meyer's son's phone number to arrange an interview with Rolf Meyer? Yeah, that'd be great, Chris. Send it to me in private. Do you have the WhatsApp group? You can find me on there. I heard American reply once, how exotic about hearing that offer South Africa. Yeah, probably 1440. But I mean, why would Americans know anything about South Africa? Please, all the people gathered here, tell me what you know about the history of Maryland. Now listen. Who in here can tell me about the history of South Tyrol other than the conscious caracal? Anybody? What about the Öland Islands? The Grand Duchy of Finland? Lori Lettonen's here, so that's not fair. Who can tell me about that? Might be one or two people who can tell me about those things, but most people can't. Which South African can tell me the history of Texas? Probably some might know some of that because it's on TV and the movies. Starring John Wayne. All right, I've been diagnosed with, we're talking about gender. Oh, sorry about that, Chris. Yeah, we know about that. Green Phantom. Keenan says, the other night you said you would be arrested if you ever was arrested. Is it because you're a high-ranking colonel? As Americans serve their country? No, it's because I was an intelligence officer. I mean, the Russians know I was an intelligence officer, and I've never been to Russia. I mean, they broke into databases, and the federal government compromised all of our clearance information, and they have it. So when they do a name check on me, and they go, aha, this guy's a retired intelligence officer. I mean, look what they're doing. They're arresting Americans who are missionaries claiming they're spies. They're arresting Americans who are doing business in Russia, nothing to do with anybody, not even the CIA, and they're claiming they're spies and putting them in prison. Can you imagine if a former intelligence officer showed up who actually knows about Russia and the Soviet Union? With the current leadership of that country, I'd find myself in jail and never come out. I'd be in a slave labor camp in the Gulag. That's why I can't go to Russia. Probably can't go to China either because of the things I say about the Chinese government. But yeah, no, I can say, look, there's no secret here. I mean, being an intelligence officer in the military is not a clandestine thing. There are clandestine operations for some intelligence officers, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about my open service as an intelligence officer. Most of us cannot leave. We don't have the means to. That's true, Faye. Stefan Meyer says, been living in Miami for 12 years and have been asked more than once what country in South Africa I'm from. Okay, Stefan, I'm not going to dispute that. You've been living in Florida for 12 years. Tell me the history of Florida. When did Florida become a state? It may have been 1845, if I'm correct. Someone can go check on that for me. Who settled Florida first? You should know that one. All right, so Bendover's super chat asks you about your thoughts on Israel. I didn't see any super chat from Bendover. Let me go back and look. Thank you for reminding me of that. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Okay, your personal view about the Israel and Palestine conflict. Thank you, Bendover. My apologies for not seeing it earlier. I hope you're still here. And thank you, whoever reminded me of that. I did miss that. Thank you. I'm on at home, I have two large screens, 30, 40-inch screens, one here with a curve and one over here for my studio. Here I'm looking at my little friggin' 15-inch laptop and my mobile phone, so I'm missing it. Plus, it's too close, so I have to wear the glasses. I'm tired. So thank you for that. But let me. So what is my opinion on the war? Some Americans, okay, so the Lions. Yeah, they do, Tommy. That's true. All right. So what else there? Let me get back to where that was at. Hey, Green Phantom. I still don't know what Trump is guilty of. He's not guilty of anything. Oh, it was Tommy Sides reminding me. Okay, so my personal opinion on Israel and Gaza is just a bunch of stupid people that don't know what's going on, especially in America campuses. And here in South Africa, I saw a billboard by Rivonia Road saying, boycott, remove Israel from the Olympics. You're going to make athletes pay because terrorists invaded Israel and raped, murdered, executed, maimed over 1,000 people, and you're going to say athletes can't compete? Any moron that sponsors that sort of billboard ought to be taken out and horsewhipped and get a little sense in their head. Okay, so my thoughts on that? It's just complete stupidity and lies. First off, we hear the nonsense, well, we must make the Israelis negotiate a two-state agreement. That's not true. The Israelis have offered a two-state solution twice. The Oslo Accords in 93, Yasser Arafat, Futsek, not doing it, not interested. They're offered another two-state solution under Ehud Barak. And Ehud Barak even went so far as to say that they would consider negotiating at a future date the jurisdiction over Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. They were going to give the Palestinians some control over Jerusalem. And Ehud Barak put this out there, and it cost him his position as prime minister. But the Palestinians didn't want that. The Palestinians don't want peace. They don't, the leaders, I'm not talking about Palestinians. I know Palestinian Christians, I know Palestinian Muslims. They're not talking about those people. I'm talking about their leaders, their corrupt leaders. These people want war, they want death because they profit from it. They live in Dubai, in luxury, and sit around and laugh about the death of innocents. They're sick, twisted ghouls. So, the Palestinians, in 2005, the Israelis abandoned the Gaza, and they uprooted and removed Jewish families and Christians who had lived there for generations, for hundreds of years living in Gaza, unmolested. Moved them out of Gaza. So the morons running around saying, Jews out of Gaza, Israel out of Gaza, you're morons. You're complete freaking idiots. Israel abandoned Gaza and removed all Jews who lived there in 2005 against their will. You want to talk about land expropriation? You want to talk about people being taken from their homes and ripped from their homes? You think it only happens in South Africa? It happens to Jews in Israel because of an accommodation to the Palestinians. And what did the Palestinians do? They shortly afterwards voted Hamas into power. Hamas built hundreds of tunnels to invade Israel, to undermine the security. They have fired thousands of rockets into Israel in an attempt to murder people in schools, clinics, hospitals, farms, residential areas. That's why Israel developed the most powerful air defense system in the world, integrated air defense system called the Iron Dome, which is not 100% effective, but it's a lot better than not having it. Otherwise, there'd be tens of thousands of dead and maimed citizens. And Israel is not a Jewish state. People call it that. Jews are the largest group there by religion, but they're not alone. They got tons of Muslims. They got Christians. They've got Druze. Plenty of people live there. So this whole thing about Israel out of Gaza, a fiction, a lie. This whole thing about the Israeli Gaza war, it's not Israeli Gaza war, it's the Hamas war. Hamas, a terrorist government of a non-state that refuses to become a state, invaded Israel's sovereignty, attacked civilians unprovoked, gang raped, murdered, dismembered, looted, burned, put babies in ovens, microwaves, and cooked them. That's my thoughts on this. Now, the thousands of purported deaths amongst Palestinian civilians, this is tragic. But invasions have consequences. When the Nazis invaded the Soviet Union, there are consequences for everybody, and eventually for ethnic Germans. 13 million Germans were evicted from land their family had lived on for 1,000 years. Removed from East Prussia, from Silesia, Schlesien, from Pomerania, Pommern, from the Sudetenland, from Bohemia. Evicted from places they had lived since time immemorial, unmolested. Land given to others, their homes, their farms, their businesses, their lives destroyed. The girls, the women gang raped on trains by Polish thugs leaving from Pomeranian Silesia. Rape gangs worked the trains to rape every German girl they possibly could and woman. Murders, theft, people killed for an apple. You want to talk about dispossessed? I'm sick of hearing this lie about South Africa's land. You talk about 13 million Germans who stole it. And of course, the response I always get is, well, the Germans started. Horse manure. My ancestors didn't start that crap. Nazis started that crap. just like Shaka started the Mfecane. So, yeah, my thoughts on that. The Palestinians are suffering a fate brought on them by the actions of Hamas, done intentionally by Hamas to cause this carnage. Why? Because Hamas got exactly what it wanted. World attention, and the Arab world, well, they hoped the Arab world would galvanize against Israel, but it hasn't happened yet. But they wanted this chaos. And why? Because they're being supported by their paymasters in Tehran, just like Hezbollah in Lebanon by Tehran. And how is Tehran pulling this off? Because Barack Hussein Obama gave Iran $100 billion, shipped on U.S. military aircraft in cash, much of it in cash, transferred it to a corrupt theocratic state that is a state-sponsored terrorism. Barack Obama is a war criminal and should be prosecuted for crimes by the U.S. government. But he has immunity because he was president, so he gets away with that. So, Tommy, did I answer Bendover's super chat? Thank you for that. Oh, Garrett's back now. I guess he had to be here. He's happy now in the Western Cape. N says Botswana is only good to the Americans to the extent that they pander to Western interests, but President Masisi is wise on that. He's discreetly going east. President Masisi is a disaster. He's corrupt, and he's destroyed Botswana's democratic system with his authoritarian rule. His government's abuse of the judicial system to charge and prosecute President Kama is an affront to the legal system. It is a morally bankrupt position, and it is a disgrace. Eric Mokwetsi Masisi is a failure in every respect. He is a small-minded man who has done great harm to Botswana's reputation, to the Botswana, and to the economic success of his country, particularly under COVID. He is a disaster of epic proportions. He's the worst leader in the history of Botswana by a wide margin, so your view is completely off the mark there, Ed. So Faith says, go back here. Faith got away from there. Oh, people are answering my questions about, okay. Wow, I really went behind there. Okay, so, okay, I'm there now. Okay, Miami, okay, there it was. So there you go. Faith says, I would love to hear where you think South Africa is headed with all these policies hitting the fan. Well, South Africa is continuing to decline. Unless somehow, some miracle, Ramaphosa is able to buy off enough people inside the NEC and inside the ANC to support him, to bring the ANC in, and instead of stuffing money in his furniture at Pala Pala, he suddenly decides to become a legitimate leader and actually govern with the DA and the IFP and re-implement the rule of law, prosecute criminals, reinforce the police, equip and pay the police, and put this country back on the right path. But that's not going to happen. So it's on the way down. RPS says both Botswana and the old homeland, but Botswana are great examples of Botswana's success. Is very proud of Botswana people, maybe not the current president. Yeah, there you go. We agree. Happy Western Cape. Garrett loves Western Cape. Homework, food, sleep, car, gay. What does gay have to do with? Julie says, interview with Juju would be good. I would love to hear how he reacts. Oh, I never get a word in edgewise. Be like Jane Dutton. She couldn't get a word against Doug Murray. He tore her apart. What else we got here? I worked in Botswana and paid no income tax. Good old days. Yeah, Jillian, no doubt. Paul said, let's be honest. Managing South Africa is impossible task. Cyril's just a front guy. Many people believe that. And I sent the number on what's crap. Thank you, Chris, for sending in a what's crap. Etienne says, sorry you got me there. I don't know any history of America. See, Etienne, that's my point. Look, that wasn't a dig at any South Africans, but people like to poke fun at Americans, but they're not willing to have introspection and realize, look, I've told this story before, but so I was in Germany for a conference, and I went to a town just west of Garmisch in the mountains near a lake there. And it's a beautiful hotel, and the young kid was 18. He's working the bar, and I bought a Weizen sitting there chatting with him in German. And I told him, I said, yeah, no, I've never stayed here before. It's my first time staying here at this conference at this particular hotel. I know Garmisch very well, but I don't usually come back here. I have gone up to the Zugspitz, but I haven't hung out here. But it's nice. And he said, where do you usually stay? I said, usually when I go to Germany, I stay at the Haus Breitenberg, which is this little town down the road. He's like, and I mentioned the town. He goes, where's that at? So what do you mean, where is that? That's 17 kilometers from here. It's in Bavaria. He didn't know where this town was 17 kilometers away. To be fair, there are mountains between him and the place, so it's not really 17 kilometers. That's as the crow flies. You have to drive all the way around through Austria, about 40 kilometers to get there. But he didn't know where it was. It's in his own state. Where I live, that'd be the next high school we compete against. So he was geographically challenged. This 18-year-old German young man who's graduated from high school and didn't even know the geography of his local area in the same administrative district. So people can be very myopic when it comes to knowing history and geography and things. Tommy says Lincoln was our 16th president. He was against slavery. Llewellyn Nels, trolls never learned that there's wise to be rude to old men in a career where most die young. Thank you, Llewellyn Nell. Yeah, but I'm not an old man. Louis L'Amour and JT Edison does not count. Huh? What does Louis L'Amour have to do with anything, Paul? Jack K. Smith says, wait, Colonel, we have to Google that. Oh, you're talking about Western. Oh, okay. All right, John. Paul got it. Okay. 60s new 40s, says Matthew. And telling RPO, we blacks have grown to learn that whatever white person lauds about a black person in the country is definitely anti-black. Huh? I don't understand that. So you're saying that anytime a white person says something positive about black folks, there's something wrong with that? I don't understand your point. I'm missing it. I'm legitimately missing it. I'm not being smart. Adam says Texas is the only state that can legally secede from the Union. Also the best state in the USA. How can Texas secede from the Union? You're going to tell me there was some agreement when they became a state in 1840, 1845, 1830, 1840? Yeah, no, I don't think so. Where did they get secession from? They tried it. They failed. The first shots of war independence were fired at Fort Sumter by the first submarine ever built. Garrett knows none of that's true. Who were the indigenous people of South Africa? Well, indigenous is a bogus term. There's no such thing as indigenous, okay? It may be the most recent first arrival. So, for instance, the Native Americans aren't the indigenous people. They immigrated from Asia, and they're not the first ones to immigrate from Asia. There was a previous immigration, and all those people died out 10,000 years before that. We're now finding out there were actually Homo sapiens in the Americas 23,000 years ago. That's a long time ago, folks. So indigenous is a term I really don't care for because it's a very biased and bigoted term, and it's meant to cheapen the value of other people. So that's in Canada, they call them First Nations, the Indians, whatever. Anyway, yeah, so the Khoisan are often described as the indigenous people of South Africa, but they're not the first Homo sapiens. They're not the first primates that lived in South Africa. There are others. We find evidence of middens along the south coast of South Africa under the water, where the water level used to be lower during the Ice Age. And we find proof going back far before Khoisan ever lived in this region. So I'm not a big fan of that. Of those that still exist, you could say the indigenous are the Khoisan. And you'd also should include in that many colors because they're descendants of Khoisan. Yeah, so yeah, if you want to say that. Yeah, people love Louis L'Amour. So the IP grew, but I think it would be more if not. Yes, that's correct, Patrick. Cathan Pillay and I were talking about that tonight, and I said you hit it spot on the nose. If it had been for MK, IFP would have surged in this election. They did a very good job. They're the only party that grew. Only major party that grew, and they would have grown much more had it not been for MK. That's a fact. Yep. It's a point where they're polling. Yeah, the MK would have taken. You're Patrick. You're spot on. You're spot on. The IFP could have gotten 35, 40% in this race if it hadn't been for MK. Yep. Where's my iPad? Chris says, I'll send his number. Okay. As long as Palestine is controlled by Hamas, there will always be a war between the two states, but Hamas wants the annihilation of Jews. Correct. Garrett says, I know Chris Wyatt is handsome. Garrett is just trolling here. My question is, where were all these pro-Palestinians pre-October? Exactly, Joking Atheist. It's a very good question. Where were they on October 6th before Hamas invaded? Where were they? Nowhere to be found. Yep. Hey, Gina Mulman, how's it going? Okay, it's funny how the colonel feigns common sense. We know his government punished innocents by his economic sanctions for donkey years for alleged crimes with political leadership. Okay, so here we go. We're going to have to debunk this, and it hasn't tried this before. So that's a lie. Don't be lazy. Do the research. Go to the Treasury Department. Look on Google. Look for sanctions against Zimbabwe. There are no sanctions against Zimbabwe. That's a lie. No innocent Zimbabweans have been punished. No innocent Zimbabweans. If you're a Zimbabwean, you want to come to America, you can get a visa just like you did before. If you're an American, you want to invest in Zimbabwe, you're dumb enough to do that, then you can do that. There's no prohibition, no restriction on Americans investing. If you're American, you want to travel to Zimbabwe, no restrictions by American government on Americans traveling. There is in North Korea, but not on Zimbabwe. These are lies perpetrated by the simple-minded to mislead people about Zimbabwe and blame America for Zimbabwe's crisis. Zimbabwe's economic demise is the result of failed racist policies and kleptocracy by ZANU-PF. That's why Zimbabwe is a failure. Not because of America, not because of sanctions. There are no sanctions in Zimbabwe, none whatsoever. None whatsoever. Only corrupt politicians and human rights abusers, as well as those government-influenced and owned entities that these people control. But anybody can start a business in Zimbabwe. Anybody can invest in Zimbabwe. Anybody can travel to Zimbabwe. There are no sanctions. That's a fairy tale spread by black supremacists, racist liars to mislead people about what's going on. Go to the Treasury Department, look up, and you can see the federal legislation. You can see the executive orders, and you can see everyone that started a long time ago under George Walker Bush. So this is a red herring that I have refuted with detailed research and a list of the actual executive orders and federal legislation that's dictated this multiple times over the years, because Zimbabwean whites or black supremacists continue this garbage and lying about this situation. It's simply factually untrue. You don't have to believe me. Go to the U.S. Treasury Department and look it up. Go to the United Kingdom and look up what the United Kingdom has. It's all a matter of public information, public knowledge. It's factual, but lazy black supremacists want to perpetrate their racist, bogus views. And they influence people who are simple-minded and believe these things without even looking up the information. So don't believe me. Go look it up yourselves. Gareth Cliff's interview with had me boiling if you haven't seen it. No, I haven't, because I was hoping to go on the program today, but he was booked already, so it didn't happen. Good evening. Dan, I'm not sure why I'm following you or watching your show. You don't like my contents or comments. You have a problem with me, and I did you no harm. What are you talking about, Nicks or Nuts? What the hell are you talking about? Are you just trolling here? I have a problem with you. I don't know what you're talking about. Dude, you're in your own world. I don't know what you're talking about. I read your comment earlier and answered your question. Either you're doing crack cocaine or smoking daga or drinking chibuku or casa lager, but you seem very confused. I have no issue with you. You're just trying to get my attention. You just got it. I don't know what your problem is. Never heard about the microwaving babies. Those guys, it's insane. Yeah, no, they put them in ovens, and I haven't seen any of the videos of it. But yeah, no, I mean, we're talking about newborns, not kids. Kids won't fit in the microwave. Just this was a newborn. It happened at least once. But kids were put in ovens. Yeah, they did that. Yep. All right, Julie says, okay, Gus, Israel working laser beam weapons. Okay, that's interesting. All right, what else have I missed here? Okay, that I read. Okay. I'm not surprised you would want to sing up Barack Obama, the chief criminal, he is president of both George Bush Sr.'s son. How? Again, Cena, and just an opinion, no fact, nothing backing up, please. How are they opinions? I gave you a specific case of why Barack Obama is a criminal. I spelled it out for you. I gave you the specific. You just make an unfounded claim. So tell me how George Bush Jr. and Sr. are criminals. Please tell me that. Yep. It's so easy to escape you, the Jews. The pro-path singers have been hijacked like the fees must fall. Yeah, good point, Adam. I don't have one. The colonel has a problem. I don't have a problem, but I'm starting to get a little pissed off at you whining about having a problem. What's your issue? More black people are dying under the government than under apartheid. Oh, more people are dying, period. There's been over 700,000 murders in South Africa, or something like that. 20,000 years, 30,000, 10 years, 200. No, it's 500,000, something like that. Anyway. What did it not say? What did it not say? I'm missing text here. I'm not getting these comments. So I don't know what he's talking about. So leave the chat if you have a problem with yeah, exactly. Exactly. Leave the chat, exactly, if you're not happy. Colors aren't the only descendants. Of what? Of the Khoisan San? I never made that claim. What are you talking about, LMC? There are no tribes called Khoi and San. You have tribes like the Oro, Gona, Nama. LMC, stop. You know that these are collective names for those groups. Stop. Don't play this game like you're the smart guy and we're ignoring it. I'm not going to sit here and list every group of people who fall into those groups. They're collective terms. In Botswana, in Setswana, we say Basarwa, but it's not a particularly friendly term, so I avoid it. The San is a term that had a negative connotation briefly, but it has been embraced by those groups. And there are other groups like the Ikung, whom I've written about for their fascinating medical approach to life and how they deal with medicine back when I was a university student. So we could go on for 8 hours about this. We could talk about GNU, the language that's about to be extinguished. Yes, but they are Koin-san. Yes, the groups do exist. They are collective terms. And they represent a whole host of different groups. Just like calling the white people Europeans. But that's meant these days as a derogatory statement. But there's truth to it. Many of the white folks' origin is there. Faith says, Chris, I'm a great-granddaughter of Dick King and Andreas Pretorius. Oh, well, that's interesting. Andreas Pretorius, pretty cool. Some of them mix with, yes, that's true. That's true. And they mix with the Kosa as well. Yep. Oh, you did say Ikong. I'm sorry, LMC. You did. There it is right there. Ikong. You did say that. Well, I didn't see that. Sorry, it's real tiny script. Mea culpa. You did say Ikong. Yeah. No, I did research on that. How their traditional healing, fascinating stuff, very effective for them. Now Nutters is removing his comments. He's complaining that I'm having a problem with him, but he deletes his comments. I understand that. All right, what else we got here? Okay, never heard about the. Okay, so. So the money in the couch was given to show by his handlers. No, I don't know who gave it to him. Supposedly a Sudanese guy did. What else we got here? For the mods, please don't block the trolls. I'm not seeing a good Chris rant in some time. Nobody's blocking the trolls. People are deleting their own messages. Message retracted means that the person who typed it removed it. And I'm seeing message retracted. Message blocked, I could see the message. But when a person types a message and retracted, I can't see it. But I can see it when the mod removes it. There's nothing, no message here. That's been removed by a mod yet. Maybe it came later. LMC, thank you for your input on the Ikong and the others. Thank you for that. I learned tonight there was a George Calvert. Yes, the first Baron of Baltimore. No idea how I'm going to remember that. Well, there's a Calvert County in Maryland named after George Calvert. So there you go. First Baron of Baltimore. I don't know if he was the first Lord. Like I say, everything wrong in this country is apartheid and the white folks that gets the blame. Nixer's nut house, factually untrue. Factually untrue. You can blame other people for failures, but that doesn't make it true. So I do remember Trump saying that the murder rate in Baltimore was higher than Honduras. It was. The syphilis rate is higher than anywhere in America, and the overdose rate is higher than anywhere in America right now. Sanctions against Zimbabwe is removed only recently, but those against leadership may take. Nope, there was never any sanctions. That's a myth. That's a fantasy. And this is a matter of public record. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and do the research for you. You can do it yourself. I've previously produced videos on this. I've done live broadcasts about this. I've talked about it. You can go look. There were no sanctions against the people of Zimbabwe. That is a lie, an outright lie. And they weren't recently removed because they never existed. There were travel restrictions and investment travel and restrictions against the corrupt leaders of ZANU, some of the leaders, that were recently rescinded. That's correct. But not against the people of Zimbabwe. That's a lie. You think two parties would work for South Africa? No. Multi-party system doesn't work. Two-party system isn't going to work any better. No, it doesn't work for America. It's not going to work for South Africa. All right. Again, Nutters keeps retracting his messages. All right. Hang on a second. What's going on? It's jumping on me again. Come on, YouTube. Quit doing this. Okay. Sadly, people believe. Okay. All right. That's where I was at. Ant said, you seem to have picked up a lot of trolls since your arrival. Well, that's because YouTube isn't blocking my channel anymore, and so people are finding it. And all you have to do is put Malema or Zuma in your... If I put Ramaphosa, it doesn't attract the trolls. But if I put Malema EFF or Zuma in the title of any video, the trolls show up. What are your thoughts about Bush being the head of the CIA? It makes me wonder about him. Why does it make you wonder about him, Tommy Sides? First off, do you know what being the head of the CIA entails? George Bush was a politician who was appointed and he ran the CIA for 1 year. Nobody can have any impact on an institution of that size with global breadth and global spread and multi-billion-dollar budget with thousands of employees, overt and clandestine, and change that and affect anything. Anything he tried to do would not have been implemented until after he left office for the most part. George Bush was only the director of CIA for a brief period of time. He was also ambassador to China. I'd be more worried about that. George Bush Sr. was a patriotic American who unfortunately became a rhino in the end, but he was a conservative at heart, in my view. He was the most accomplished man ever to serve as the president of the United States, but his presidency was marred by a recession started by Saddam Hussein when he invaded Kuwait and drove up the price of oil overnight from $9 to $45 a barrel, or $35 a barrel. It quickly went back down, but the damage was done. It pushed weak economies into recession. So he was a victim of that and the lies of James Carville and Bill Clinton. But no, the fact that he was head of the CIA doesn't mean a whole lot, folks. People seem to think the CIA are like the great boogeyman. I've worked with CIA, and I'm not that impressed. Not that impressed. They do have impressive operations, but most of it is not what you think it is. The Israeli guys tell, I don't know what you're talking about, who are the Israeli guys? Matthew says his great uncle was Durban's port operator. See, so my reason for saying that is that they include tribes like the Hadza and unrelated groups on the collective Khoisan, which is bogus. Oh, well, I never did that. Okay, thank you for your explanation, LMC. Thank you for your tonight. Once again, occasionally you come out here and you make good points and you don't troll, and I like it. Thank you, LMC. It makes much more interesting conversation when you contribute rather than go with bogus arguments. Unbelievable how the hopes of country lie and how much money Ron Pose has to buy off people. No, you're right, Patrick. That's pretty scary, but that's the reality you're facing tonight. Can you retract message? I thought message retract notifications were... No, you can retract your message. Bob, if you put a message in YouTube, you can delete it. Go to your chat. Delete that message. It'll say message retracted. Whoops, off topic. Did you see what happened in the uncontracted tribe? Amazon was given access to the internet. No, porn and social media. No, I didn't see that, but I'm not surprised. Trolls or stop signs in Chris' army and his taxis, so ignore them. Hey, Liam Menard. No restrictions in Zimbabwe. My friend is studying in the UK and his sister in Canada. That's correct. That's correct. No restrictions on Zimbabweans. It's a lie. It's a lie. There are hundreds of thousands of Zimbabweans living in the UK, tens of thousands living in America. They travel back and forth. They have money in banks on both sides. It's just total fiction. It's a lie. It's a lie, like so many other lies. But people are too lazy to look up the facts. In fact, you know what? You've prompted me to do this. Let me see if I can find it. It might not be sweet tonight. Treasury. Treasury sanctions on Zimbabwe. Let's see what that turns up. Today, the Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control designated 11 individuals, including Emerson Mnangagwa, and 3 entities for their involvement in corruption or serious human rights abuse. Okay? What sanctions are imposed on Zimbabwe? Okay? All right. Restrictions on supplying arms and related services, that doesn't affect Zimbabweans. Restrictions providing assets to designated persons or entities, that doesn't affect Zimbabweans. Restrictions on dealing with the assets of designated persons or entities, that doesn't. Travel bans on those people, and sanctions permits. That's from Australia. That's Australia's regime. Why do U.S. put sanctions by? Why does U.S. put sanctions? U.S. says aim. What's behind the latest sanctions? There are no sanctions. So this is from Al Jazeera. Another lie. See, Al Jazeera is dishonest when it comes to reporting on the U.S. So this is from April this year. In March, the United States imposed new sanctions on 8 Zimbabwean individuals, including Mnangagwa and his wife, for allegations of corruption and human rights abuses. Placed sanctions on 3 businesses accused of alleged corruption and human rights abuses. Yep. So not a single sanction against Zimbabweans. It's a lie. It's a fiction. All right. What else? Whoops. Your content now comes up my feed daily. So excited. Always had to find it for. Well, Julie, it's because I'm in South Africa and they haven't figured out where I'm at yet. So, but a lot of people dropping off tonight on a Friday night. Bush gave us David Souter. Yeah, you're right, Tommy. That's true. It's true. Well, the other Bush gave us the Chief Justice, John Roberts, the turncoat fake conservative. Yep. Darko, Pandora's. What else? Urban LMC says also the Damara classified as Khoisan because their language, but genetically are very similar to Bantu speakers. Similar amongst Khoisan of the. Yeah, that one I'm a little less sold on. The Damara, their ties are very close to the Khoi community. So, I'm not going to profess to be an expert on the Damara. You find a lot of them in Namibia, of course, but thank you, LMC, for that input. Something to take a closer look at. So, yeah, something to take a closer look at. I think the World Health Organization, very dangerous organizations. Yeah, the World Economic Forum is not an international body. It's a private organization. It is very dangerous. And the World Health Organization is not dangerous, but under the hands and leadership of Boutros Ghali, under Tedros, Boutros Ghali, under Tedros, it is a disaster, and they're trying to have authority, which they don't have. They're working on it. So yeah, it's a concern. I agree with that one. Where are we at? Where to leave off at? So, what's your source? No, I don't. That's not for me. James is out of here. Zano, traffic's all items needs North Korea. All right. Well, tomorrow is Saturday, 11 a.m. Salsa Mexican restaurant right here at Loftus Park, next to Loftus Versfeld. Come on over. There's parking garage here. If you come at that hour, it'll be before the game, so you can get in. And we'll have a meet and greet from 11 till about 12:30. Then I've got a meeting shortly after that with someone else. So please come on over and have a good time. Looking forward to it. Meet some new people, share some thoughts, taking some snaps. It'll be fun. And then after that, I'm going to the Bulls game, and hopefully the Bulls win against Benetton. And there you have it, folks. So thanks a lot. Be sure to check things out. Thank you for being here. Be sure to hit the like button if you don't mind. We got 178 likes. 139 people currently watching the channel, and I'm glad that you're getting my notifications. But the key thing, ladies and gentlemen, as I've said over and over again, you must get into one of the WhatsApp groups or the Telegram groups. I know some people use Telegram because they don't like to give their phone number away. That's fine. That's your privacy. That's your prerogative. That's why we have Telegram groups. But Telegram, WhatsApp group, every video, every broadcast, a link is put in all those groups. I currently update 8 WhatsApp groups, including Ronaldo's group, and I update 7 Telegram groups with every broadcast, every video, usually before the fact or when it's published. So when YouTube censorship kicks in and you don't find my content, you'll know that there's something published because you're in one of those groups. So there you go. So please join those. As a black man, the worst nightmare that could happen to me is hearing that John Cena is part of the government. John is the real boogeyman. And again, how is he a boogeyman, and why would that bother you? Why are you so fearful of white people? What is it about skin pigmentation that sets you off so much? It's fascinating. We see people like N and others come in here and troll every night and make comments about white people. Nobody here is saying bad things about black people. I mean, if there's a bad comment, I've missed it, but no one's stereotyping black people and saying these things. But we just keep seeing this coming from the trolls coming in here. I mean, what's your problem with people's skin pigmentation? The lies about who the racists are really are getting exposed right now. The South African Communist Party, Kasatu, Lindiwe Sisulu, the MK Party, blatantly, openly racist comments. Nobody bats an eye. Nobody bats an eye. Nobody bats an eye. All right. All right. That's it. Almost 2 hours. That was a lot longer than I expected tonight. And we still got 138. When I ended last night, we had 200 and some. The night before, we had 300 and some. Hope that's not an indication where we're going. 185 likes. A little bit of super chat money. Thank you all for that. If I missed a comment in the chat, folks, I'm not skipping your comments intentionally unless it's repetitive or it's already been covered. But I try to get as many people's comments as possible. I think you'll find that almost no other content creator on YouTube does what I do when it comes to engaging with their audience. And that doesn't make me special. It just means that's my approach. You're taking your time to be here. The least I could do is try to read your comments if they're appropriate, as long as they're not rude or something like that, and bring it into the conversation. And tonight, LMC brought some very good points in, talking about the coin sign, also talking about some other things. But N is trying to mislead you with this whole thing about sanctions. They're under sanctions in Zimbabwe. That's a fairy tale spread by failed black supremacists in Zimbabwe to explain away their corrupt government that has destroyed life there. So there you go. And that's it. Have a good night. And I'll pop on tomorrow, probably from the game, and say, hey. All right. So good night, everybody. Be safe out there. Take care of yourselves. And be sure to hit the like button. And we appreciate it. I'm going to wrap it up there. Again, today, AfriForum, Ernst von Sale, the Conscious Caracal. You can catch the interview on the channel. You just go look for that. And then also met with Mark Oppenheimer, but there's no video of that. And then met with Kanthan Pillay. We'll be doing a program together, so looking forward to that. Yep. All right. Good night. Cheers, everybody.